Hello, and welcome back to the channel, God and Girl Talk. I'm Chris. I am excited because we are going to be talking about why we should not let others control us and stop us from doing God's will for the calling that He has placed in our life. Because a lot of times we don't have true fear in this life, especially living in a first world country where we are not in medieval times and someone's not trying to duel us for our life or fight us, or we're not in battle. We're not outrunning predators. We are having fear over people's opinions, their thoughts, their beliefs in us, their raised eyebrows, their side comments, things that we cannot control. We let that stop us from what God has called us to do. And just so we are on the same page, I looked up the definition of fear because I wanted to be very clear on what fear meant. And fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat. So like I said, all of those things that I just mentioned earlier about not outrunning predators, not being in battles for our lives on a daily basis, those are real and present fears and dangers and threats. And a lot of us do not face those on a daily basis. However, we still do not take action and we do not execute on what God has called us to do because we call it fear. We are afraid someone's going to attack us. We're afraid that a lion's going to come out of nowhere and stop us from doing God's work. Yes, it happened in the Bible, but he wasn't doing what God told him to do. Just saying. So we are going to talk about it because fear, we like to mistake fear for disobedience and fear for, let's just be honest, laziness and being comfortable and not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting to hear other people's mouths and opinions and what they think about us. That's what we call fear now in our modern day society, when that's not real fear. You just want to be comfortable. You just don't want to do what God told you to do and you want to be lazy. Let's be real. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it honest. Why? I have been there. I have been so disobedient. I used every excuse in the book. I thought people were going to talk about me. I thought that my parents were going to see this. I thought society was going to see it and say something. I don't care. I don't care. Why? Because there's no real and present danger in that. It's not. So we have to be honest and we have to be real with ourselves on the true feelings that we are experiencing and that are stopping us from doing God's calling and his work that he has placed in our lives and that he has planned out for us long ago. And what is that? Other people. That is why you have not done the thing that God has told you to do, is because other people have stopped you from doing it. You have let that happen in your mind, those scenarios, those thoughts, those beliefs, those raised eyebrows, those conversations you're going to have, the over-explaining, the overindulging, the giving in, things that likely have not even happened yet, number one. And if they have, you have to answer at the end of your life as to why you were disobedient and why you didn't do what God has placed on your heart. And how do you know it's from God? I always go back to this because a lot of us, let's be honest, we cannot remember what we even had for breakfast 3 days ago. We can't. You can't remember it. If you do, it's going to take you some time. However, there is something on your mind or in your heart that will not leave, that will not be quiet, that you see somebody else living or doing the thing that's similar to what God told you to do, and you have envy, you have jealousy, you have a bit of resentment. You see that happening, and you're like, I can do that better, or I can do it in my way, or she has all these followers, and why can't I have all these followers when I do these things? That's may or may not be your calling. However, you're not consistent. You're not letting God direct you and drive your action. You're letting other people stop you, other people influence you, other people not believing in you, maybe, have an effect on how you live today in this moment. And I refuse to let that happen to us any longer. So some examples of this, just so we are all on the same page of how we let people subconsciously or unconsciously affect us and how we show up, are maybe there is a job that God is calling you into. Like maybe he has another next leadership role for you. This can happen in corporate America. Do not think that just because you have a job, you're not doing God's calling. There are places that God needs Christians to go. That way he can start changing people. He can start planting seeds. He can start watering them in people that may or may not be more corrupt, may or may not be trying to get ahead and rely on their own successes and show up in the way that God does not need them to be showing up. He needs to implant Christians in everybody's life. So there may be a job that he placed on your heart that may be a level or two ahead of where you're at, but he needs you to be a leader in that space. He needs you to show up. He needs you to be the Christian that he called you to be. He needs you to have a level of influence that other people in that position or that organization may not have and may not be believers and may not lead people to God. He still needs you in that. But somebody might have come along and told you that you aren't qualified. You're not leadership material. And it's probably not even the hiring manager. You probably haven't even put in for the job. You've let that person stop you now from a calling and a placement that God has put in your life that he needs you to be in and show up at. There also may be a delay in starting a business or a ministry or just a big project that God put on your heart because someone told you, that's too risky. I don't know. I've never known anybody who was successful in doing that. Okay. And you've let somebody stop you now and get in your head and stop you from doing what God put on your heart to do. He didn't ask that person to come along and tell you anything, likely. But you have let that stop you. Or just having a better life. Maybe you're surrounded by a group of friends that is not positive and not doing anything to change their circumstances of life. They may not be thinking well. They may not be eating well. They may not be in their word. But now you have a sudden desire to be that person that takes care of their body, that spends time with God, and that works on their mental health. And you're worried that other people are going to judge you because he's calling you up to something higher and that they're going to fall away by the wayside. Happens all the time. Happens every day. Happened to me. And I will tell you that when God is ready for you to transition and let go of people, it's going to happen. So you can either do it now or you can do it later and it can be more painful, but it's going to happen. Okay. Also, another thing, you may be over-explaining yourself to make other people feel comfortable with the decisions that you've made, that God told you to make. He didn't ask for anybody else's opinion when he told you to do something, but you feel the need to make sure everybody else is comfortable with the decision. So now you're explaining it in such a way that you think is going to make them jump on board with you when it's likely not, because that's just the way the world works. And that's just the way God is. If he called you to do something, likely you will have just about nobody with you on that journey. And if you have a person or two, praise God, because then he's giving you some support to execute on a very big mission that he has for your life. However, do not let people stop you from making that decision and making the moves. Do not over-explain yourself. It is not important to them to understand what God told you to do. It's not important. So I'm going to give you a scripture first before I give you some practical inner work, tools to help you stop relying so much on other people's opinions for you taking the action that God told you to do. But in Galatians 1, verse 10, it says, obviously, this is Paul, it says, obviously, I am not trying to get the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. I don't know what's more important to you at the end of your life, which is living with regrets, always putting people and their opinions and their beliefs of you ahead of you, or accomplishing only greatness, which is what God is. He's all things good, all things great. Accomplishing only greatness, fulfillment, love, happiness, and abundance at the end of your life, and answering to that, and him calling you a good and faithful servant, or you dying with a bunch of regrets, serving other people with a bunch of people who don't even believe in you, and you not living up to your full potential. What is more important? That's what we got to ask ourselves. And that's what we're going to ask ourselves as we get into the inner work. The first thing you need to ask yourself every time something comes up, every time somebody's opinion comes to you, every time it's unsolicited, and you will get to a point where you don't care. But if you do care in this moment, ask yourself, whose voice am I replaying when I hesitate? Is it a spouse? Is it a friend? Is it a sister? Is it a family member? Is it a parent? Is it your old self? You can be stopping yourself and getting in the way because you have let people in the past tell you that you can't do something, and now you're living with those thoughts and those beliefs, and now you're hesitating. And Again, this may be subconsciously or unconsciously. You don't know. But you have to stop thinking that the things that God has placed on your heart are for other people to ingest and feel good about. No, they are for you to act on. They are for you to get moving on. You will not hesitate because those people are not always going to be part of your plan. And if they still love you as you start to execute and move on the things that God told you to do and go the places that he told you to go, wonderful. Come along for the ride. If not, you will be fine because you have God on your side. You will be fine. And then the next thing you're going to do is name the trigger. Are you afraid of disappointing yourself or others? Are you embarrassed? Do you feel like you're not going to have any friends? Do you feel like people are going to judge you? They're going to talk about you? Yeah. Yes, yes, and yes. Those are all going to be very valid triggers and very real things that will come up. It will happen. There's no way around it because your assignment is not for everybody to understand. They will only get on board when they see the success, but you've already been successful. You are already a success. God created you as success. He created you as his own creation. He calls you a masterpiece. So anything outside of that from anyone else does not apply to you. If they think something of you, they don't think you're a masterpiece, thank you. No problem. Have at it. That no longer has to control you. Their opinions, their thoughts, their beliefs no longer have to control you. This is your mission, your relationship, your duty with God. And that will be so much more fulfilling, so much more abundant than you could ever imagine. So start addressing the triggers that come along with that. And then the third thing you have to ask yourself is, who will I hurt more when I'm disobedient to God's will for my life? Will it be myself or someone else? And who will I have to answer to for that disobedience at the end of my life? I don't know about you, but I rather have a good answer for God than my best friend at the end of my life, or my husband, or my friend, or my whoever. I don't care. But I'm not going to be in this life any longer being disobedient to what God told me to do because I'm afraid of someone else's opinion. We have to die to that previous version of ourselves that is addicted to other people's validation. You have to die to it. And God will help you with this, I promise. But so will inner work. The practical tools that I'm listing out, they're not hard. You're doing a voice audit. Whose voice am I listening to? Is it my spouse? Is it my husband? Is it my friend, my child, my whoever? Or is it God's? Even if it's the old version of myself that no longer applies and no longer fits me, it has to die. Okay? Because we are no longer seeking validation for anyone outside of God. So I want you, homework for the week is to make one decision on what God has told you to do. Like, think about it because you already know what it is. Pray about it, think about it, meditate on it, and act on it. I want you to make one decision of saying, I'm going to start my speaking career. I'm going to release a piece of content. I'm going to write an article. I'm going to apply for that job. I'm going to show up for someone in a way that they didn't expect me to show up. I don't know what God has placed on your heart, but I know that this is the time to act. We cannot go another single day where we are not acting on the things that God told us to do. It can be so small, but act and do, and stop subjecting yourself to other people's validations, because at the end of the day, you will not have to answer to those people. You will have to answer to God. And his plan for you is so much more abundant, so much more fulfilling, and so much more promising anyway than anyone else on the face of this earth can give you. So seek your approval and your validation from him, if nothing else, and move on with your life. I hope this helped you. I hope this blessed you. I am sorry, not sorry that I was passionate about it, because I know that my calling is to help lead people to Christ, and I want you all to see that and to know that you can have a more fulfilling life, and that it does not have to look the way it's been looking if it's not going well, and that you can have freedom. You can be free. And I love you guys. All right. Until next time. Bye.